Welcome to another episode of Stock Chart Talk, discussing setups and charts on the trend shift and retracement from the day trading and swing trading chart talk setups provided by Active Trader Setups Charting Package. We're going to look at reading some intraday charts, getting an early read on a good solid move. First chart we're going to look at is AAP, and it's one of those charts that's really not telling us anything by all this range bound consolidation that it spent most of the day before. It's 9:49 in the morning. This dotted line is your day change. So most of the day it stayed range bound, didn't do anything. So we got a slight more biased downtrend, but not a good strong downtrend like we like to look for the trend shift. So we got to look for some kind of momentum breakout. The market was strong in this last 2 days, and this stock had consolidated. My first little tell on this chart is down here at the bottom, right in this area. We've got our two blue ones at the bottom for momentum, and on this dot up we've got the momentum crossover, and so we're in a upward movement when we got momentum indicated for upward movement. Now this stock pulled back 75 cents. Remember, the current price indicated in the upper left hand corner is the close of the dot at the time, so that's the current close over here that's there now. And to continue upward, it is one more factor. In this case, we're on a 25 factor chart, so be another 25 cents up. But to reverse requires two factors, so it'd be 50 cents backwards. So we pull back 50 cents and then one more dot for an additional 25. So 75 cent pullback, pretty much to the line area. And I really don't think the line at this point has a lot of meaning. What does have meaning is we hit the force strength here and went from to green. We also, if you'll notice, these peaks back here, you didn't have the force at green. You did way back here, but in the middle of the afternoon here of the day before, we didn't get to green down here. The edge indicator was below the zero line all afternoon. And the way the colors work, remember, on the edge is near maximum is green. As it fades away or as it moves up, whatever the case may be, it's blue until it reaches a certain level near the peaks. And then when it crosses the zero line, it goes to yellow. And when it gets near the bottom, it will minimize down and turn red. So during this period, there was not a lot of strength being shown in this chart. It wasn't above the zero line even on these little peaks up. Right here, early in the morning, we got this area right here where we caught the upward movement on this little move up right in here, up on the chart here. So we got our two blue ones right in here. We had momentum building before we got those two blue ones way back here. Into the edge, went to maxed out for a few minutes. Right in here. Then we got our momentum, and then we continue. So we know we have a bias to the upside. And many times when you get this force alert down here on the green, right in here, it will return when it comes back up. So as the chart turned and headed back up right here, The edge started back up. We got the force back, and you got your two blue ones are pretty much sideways, but look at your increase. The lower one moved down, the upper one moved up, and we actually crossed our overlay up here, and this picked up some huge momentum at that point. So the force would be the minimum thing I would be looking for right there. So our pre-alerts were here on the momentum increase as the stock was trading up right in here, and then we had maxed out our edge prior to that. So there's some real interest in the stock early. You get this little pullback, and remember, this is all going on early. You get a lot of rampant movement, volatility early in stocks, a lot of times low volume. So you got the breakout here about 10 o'clock. It actually was at 9:52 is when it flipped this back to green, and that was just about where you did break out at 141.16. If you had a trend line across the previous high from yesterday, you're breaking out of that first attempt up that had the interest on the edge. We had the force, we got the momentum, the force comes back. So I'm looking at anything that's gonna get my interest back in this stock for upside movement. I'm also be looking at the 10, what's going on the 10 factor at the time of this pullback, and I'm going to use it as my guide to come back in, as well as seeing my force down here. I've got the rise in my edge during all this time, and I'm ready for this breakout. And when the breakout came, it was nice and forceful. This was a full dollar bounce right here, but this was nice and forceful here. That's another $1.50. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 factors. $1.50 does a 75-cent pullback, and it turns ahead right back up again. And this is where it lost the lower blue one, but it maintained the upper blue one, and it never did really dip real far down below the zero line on this slight pullback, and then just headed straight back up. Again, you could watch your dimer for a re-entry, or don't get out. If you're swing trading and on maybe a lower ATR stock, you wouldn't be swing trading this stock on this factor. You'd be moving up to a 50 or a 100. You don't get out on the pullbacks. You just maintain your position and expect the pullbacks. And you're going to have a 4 to 6 factor pullback. That was 3. 6 factor would have brought you all the way back down to here. And it just goes again. That's how they work. That's basically Fibonacci's if you put a number on it. I'm not a Fibonacci trader, but if you put a number, you will see Fibonacci retracements over and over and over again in this system as they pull back and hold these levels. Chart of ACN on these early morning bounces. Again, you got the volatility and low volume. You're about 10 o'clock right here. You got no strength building, so you could take a short here off the line with a tight stop. And a lot of times, if I'm looking at a chart, and remember, the dot is plotted as current right here, whatever that dot is. So if I want to take a short right here and not even wait on the pullback, going by pretty much weakness down here, and I wanted to take it at the line, maybe it's lining up with yesterday's low, could be lining up with VWAP, could be lining up with the open price, any kind of inflection off one of the other charts that can show you that this is probably a higher probability fail here anyway. If I want to take this trade short, I'm going to take my current price. I know for a continuation up is 1 factor up, so that's 25 cents. The GZR is the price of exactly 1 factor up plus 1 cent. So 60.11 in the case right here, plus 25, because we're on a 25 factor chart, is 160.36, and you can see this shows 160.37. So if I believe here that this is not going to proceed far enough to produce another auto plot off the factor 25, all I have to do is look right here. There it is, to the penny, what it's going to take to produce another closed factor. So if I don't believe it's going to do that, what do I have right here? I have my stop. I can take my short, glance right at the chart, not have to do any thinking. That's what a trading plan is, a minimum amount of decisions to be made. That's like consistent share size and all the decisions you can eliminate from the process, or thinking and things that would slow you down. So if I want to go short right here, right there's my stop. If I believe I'm not going to produce another close, I'll go plot up. Quickly I can take the short, there's my stop to the penny on my chart. Now this stock continued down after it ran down. When it started back up right here, I like to look coming from down low, and if I get a quick reversal, and we'll find one where it just goes straight from yellow or red all the way to blue instantly. But if I can get the move before the second dot plots on the reversal back above the 0 line, I feel like that's bringing in some momentum, and then that can put this on your watch, and you can see we had the force right here, came into this chart right about here, maybe a little more over right about that dot right there. So when it came in, we've got the force, we've already gaining some momentum up here. If you wanted to take this early, knowing that it may go up here and pull back, you could do that. By the time it actually got to the trigger price over here to go to red to green, the momentum was so strong, the force had remained. You picked up your two blue ones right here, momentum increase, red to green, as well as the edge maxed out as it came into that level there. Before it ever actually crossed, the edge was actually somewhere right in here that it came into play, just about the time of the dot, and you end up with another dollar almost run, and the day wasn't over at the time I took that snapshot. This is a chart of ADP, again very choppy back to our left over the day before, slightly increasing early, very early. The stock ran down real fast or gapped down, gave a slight little move up there about 50 cents, actually got some strength down here with the edge. It's very, very early. This is all in the first minute of trading, but there's some strong interest here, and we're just plodding along here early, letting things settle in. By the time you get right here at 9:45, the stock has started back up off the bottom, and look right here, you got your force came in right about there. That's very early, and trying to come back up here. So by the time you get right here, you're gaining momentum here. You already got your force. Stock gives a nice run. I like to use, when I see this present early on the edge, I feel like it's a reason to pay attention to this stock. You got this move up here. You get a nice 75-cent run. When we cross a red line, we expect a pullback. There's a nice pullback. So if you didn't trade here, here's another opportunity. You got the pullback right where you're expecting it to pull back to. You got the value of that line. Again, you could say, I'm going to take this long here. It's already showing my strength. I've had my force. What do I expect when I head back up? I expect to get my force back. I expect to get my two blue ones. And that's exactly what you got. And you can take the trade here. And what do? You look up in the box, you get the value of the dot. You're taking your confirmation in your chart that you don't believe it's going to post another dot down. If you believe that, this is your stop. Whatever's in this box, that is one dot down minus 1 penny. No emotions, no thinking. You can take your trade early. If you want to wait on it to come back up here and get the two blue ones in the crossover, you can. 132.22. But if you want to find those stocks that's been having the strength already, even if you wait on the trigger, 132.22 triggered at 10:04, and it gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's $1.50. And you can see it went quickly and then it slowed down. It took it a long time. This was 2:18 in the afternoon. Steady going up. We've got our two blue ones came into play, and we actually got out above our overlay up here, and that's just added strength to this whole setup right here. On a very similar chart to this on LXIN, which was big time selling off the last few days, playing it off a possible bounce. It had a huge candle up on a 1 minute candle, a couple of big candles that ran up too fast. But I was interested in case it did break up for a big bounce, which it did not. But I waited on it to pull back, and it pulled back about $1. I waited on the pullback into the line because I didn't feel like I wanted to chase that very volatile candle up. And it pulled back immediately, and then it drifted and drifted. Probably took it 20 minutes or longer. Finally, it went all the way to the line. It went 2 cents below the line after it plotted the dot to a low, exactly the price of the line, and turned around and bounced about 80 cents, and then it turned and sold back off, never turned it red to green. But it was a similar setup. I waited on the pullback, and I was able to take that trade with a very tight stop and get an early entry. I didn't make a lot of money because when it pulled back, I went ahead and got out. I had a free trade and a small profit, but I had an opportunity to get in way down here on a minimal risk for what could have been a big rush up, and it'll be on watch again next trading day. So chart of EW, this is 1 day. This is your typical. This actually has a trend. It's downtrending, and it breaks out above, and we know if we get 3 or more factors above this line, it's coming back. This did a perfect pullback after lunch right to the line. It had already had force involved earlier. It had had the edge maxed earlier as it came up here. You could have actually taken this trade, because this is exactly what I wanted to show you right here. You went from the low all the way up across the zero line, all before it plotted the first dot. That's a strong reversal. You usually don't see that. When you can see that, if you want to take a risk on a early entry on a trend reversal, a counter trend trade, this is a good indicator. If you get that instantly off the bottom before the first plot, I like to get it in the first 2 dots. This actually occurred prior to the dot. Probably was a little before that ever plotted that 50-cent move off the bottom to make that dot actually connect as a closed move up. You see what happened. It came right on in with the force, and this continued. Just if this dot, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 factors, $1.75 move off of that quick reversal. If I don't get the quick reversal, I need some other things going on for me to take one early. Like this one here didn't give that quick reversal. It did reverse up above the blues, but you can see how it slowed down. It wasn't as strong as this move was back here. It didn't go to the edge maxing out on the way up in this long run. Now what happens when we get that far out above? We've ran 9 factors. When you get between 8 and 12, you're probably going to get a pullback. That's where your Fibonacci start to play in. This did give a pullback, and what did it do? It went right to our red line. The red line didn't turn green until this plot right here. And it was a very nice reversal right dead off the line there. It didn't get very weak as it pulled back. We just barely crossed the zero line, although it was getting some momentum in the blue one. So your crossover here from red to green, you didn't get the 2 blue 1 crossover because it was more in a chop right here, and this would not actually even shown up on a scanner when it turned red to green, because we only show on the scanner when we get the perfect double blue 1 cross like we got right here. This crossover here, when we go red to green at 142.83, and we get the 2 blue 1 crossover simultaneously, that's what we put out on our alerts. Anything that doesn't meet all that qualification, we classify as maybe not enough of a downtrend to qualify for the alert, and we filter that out in that way. So this one wouldn't have shown up because it wasn't the perfect crossover on the alert. You can still be trading the chart and watching the chart. I will take and load my symbols into a market analyzer, which is like a watch list. With this indicator, I want to know anytime I can get my edge to the green side, because it's going to make me start watching that stock. Now in this case it had already ran a long way. You can also watch your force alerts, which most of the time will precede the edge, but they came right back in and bought this late in the day. So the next morning, this is a new day right here, this stock continued up very early. By 9:35 is all the way up here. I'm not saying you can trade this at all, because you may not can get in early enough or see it early enough. There's a lot going on, and I don't like early trades. So this I'm not going to get involved in. This part I like if I'm in the right place watching it. You got to narrow your stocks down to what you're interested in, and then really focus on those 2 or 3 stocks and find your trade setup, and then start looking again to build your next interest list on what's going on. And that's how I build my intraday interest list. It's what I'm seeing on the force, what I'm seeing on the edge, and what I'm seeing between the 25, the 10, and the 50 charts. I may be getting the force on the 50 and already be crossing over on my 10 or the 25 to go ahead and take a really good trade. When I see this, I'm going to the 10. I'm stepping back my next level to get me a good setup and find that strength on that 10 to move on in this trade. This makes me interested. The 10 gives me confirmation of how to enter and when to enter that trade. The next morning, or the next day, this is one day, this is the next day, as this broke down through the day and was kind of weak throughout the day. It really wasn't super weak here. It came in with the force to the red side here. It had already shown up a couple times in the morning, so it's kind of defining weakness. And when it finally broke down, it did give the 2 blue 1 crossover down here, and when it turned red to green, it would have been right along in this area, and it didn't give a lot of volatility, and it stayed weak. When it tried to do this little bounce, you didn't get much of an increase here, and it continued on down. You already had the 2 blue 1s indicating momentum to the downside. You get on a smaller trend chart or smaller factor chart, and you work your way right back into this trade, and you've got from here $1.50 move down to here, and your edge came in really weak right here. The bounce, I have no bounce play here. It didn't give an instant reversal. I've got no bounce play here at all. You can find something that does. There's no point in trying to force a trade. If the chart don't tell you to take it, that's what this is all about. No emotions. If it's not giving you the indicator we want to see, like right back here, we're not interested in trying to play this bounce play at all. If you find a chart on our support resistance lines that went right to the line, maybe a double bottom or a bottom from 3 or 4 days ago, right to the penny and reversed, and you want to get over on the smallest factor you can find, like a 10, and take a trade, you can, but be aware it may not be as strong. I want the stronger setup on the bigger chart, or I want a inflection point that's strong. The next morning, here's what you got by this time right here, and it actually crossed over at 9:45 back to green right here. So it gave you the little movements you want to see. It held the red line. It gave a little 50-cent bounce, held the red line again. You really don't know what it's going to do here, so you want to wait on that trigger price. Remember, the trigger price is on the chart, and the little box right over here tells you 2x long watch 142.83 prior to the trigger. So you already know what the number is going to be that crosses that. Now when this and you know that you're right down here, you're a solid yellow line. So what's in your favor? In your favor is that when I get this trigger, I'm probably going to get my two simultaneous blue ones, which it did. Now, it didn't have a lot of strength until after that point in time. Another 25 cents though, as soon as it triggered, you've got the edge moved up across the zero line by right here, and by the time you got to here, or actually another 50 cents, you got the edge really strong. You already had your force here, you had your two blue ones. This just got stronger as it went on. Our overlay of our ones, now that we've got that on the chart, when you cross up above that, that is some kind of strength you've got going on right here in this trade. You've crossed your overlay, you got your edge maxed out, your force is maxed out, your blue ones are in your favor, and you got acceleration. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a $2 move from right here. Even if you miss the first 75 cents. We got you a double chart here. Got the 25 factor on the left, 50 factor on the right. You look at how these interact. Now these are days lines on here. So EL, when it broke down on a bigger picture for like a multi-day short, this for you swing traders, your week, look at your edge. Your edge is maxed to the bottom this next morning here after it turned over the day before. Didn't have two blue ones. It did have momentum to the downside, and a blue one gained, joined the party right in here as this stock weakened into the day, toward the end of day. And the next morning it went down very early, gave a little bounce, and then continued on down. You've got to move from here. That's $1, $2, $3.50, right on into the next morning, just continuing on down. Again, the next day, it's about a 3 or 4 day move that this stock actually, from right here, moved down $8. From there to here is a $8 move. 1, 2, 3 days. Look at how strong you are down here, or how weak. Coming into this day here, you've got maxed out negative, stays there all day long. Next day, slight little bounce up, nothing to be concerned about, never even thought about going blue. Right back down negative again into the next day, your third day. Now look what happened right here. Suddenly, now it didn't happen here at the bottom, but it did when it did make the move right about here is where the definitely get out. It went all the way to green from red, all in a period of about 50 cents. You also had your force come in right here. That force came in. If you short this stock, you're out. See, back here on these little bounces, you didn't get the force. You didn't get nothing close to the force. You get the force against you, it's time to take off this trade. You already had 3 days and $8. Now the setup I was showing here on this chart was from Thursday morning. It's chopping around. We're way over here on this day. We're chopping around. We get this break really early, so you're probably not going to take a 9:32 a.m. break. It goes up 75 cents, instantly comes back. As it's pulling back, you're watching for your setup. You did have your force right here. You didn't have green, but you were strong on your edge trying to get some momentum up here. As it pulled back though, so you lost that momentum. So you're a little worried, maybe not going to jump right in. Well, what happened right here is you pull back to where you're supposed to hold. Look what's going on your 50. Your 50 has broke up, and when it pulled back $1, which was this move right here, that's 50 cents, 75, that's $1. This move right here took this to right on top of that line. And what's going on while this is going up right here, this is gaining strength, and on this dollar pullback, it didn't lose anything. Okay? So you've got a pullback without a pullback here. This is divergence on this edge. You just had your force right here. What do we learn when we got our force? We're probably going to get it back. So as it bounced right off the line, it headed back up. Force came right back in it. When it turned it to green here, it did get your two blue ones, although it did go back red for a moment. It did continue on up from here. It never even pulled back, even though it plotted red, it kept going up. And sometimes you'll have something maybe within a penny of changing that plot. The stock's not trying to come back down, and it continued on up. But right off of this, tied in with this chart on the left over here, and you just had your force, you can step in now. If you're using the dot to set your stop, this is a 50 algo chart, so your stop is 50 cents. If you want to take this and want to make it a little tighter, you can come over here and use 25 or 30 cents as a stop if you don't want to go the full 50 cents, or you can wait till this starts up some and come back and just use this line as your stop. But you've got momentum building on this. This ended up being a pretty good run, and it continued into the next day, if I remember right. This next chart is Darden. This was a downtrend back here. Real choppy stock, sideways most of this particular day. This is 10:15 right in here, so it was more negative than positive, but really, chart can't really tell you a lot. So you may either find another chart, but if you're watching this stock and you thought this uptrend was just hesitating here, early, right at the open, you got the edge maxed out right here during all this time. So you got this little pullback. You are green. Your force was here early, came right back in. First signal up, which was right here. The force came right back in the stock, and it gave you, if you wait on the complete reversal here, because it didn't pull all the way back, so it could have easily kept coming down. And you've lost your lower blue one. I don't like to lose my lower blue one, so that's going to make me hesitate when you get, and please pay attention to that. You got this break and you got this pullback right here. That's every reason you need not to go long early. The blue one has gone away down here, and the overlay, you got an easy glance right up here to see that that's no longer blue. And if we're not keeping that blue, we're not sold on this going back up. When it did turn back up and it brought the force back in, what happened? It picked the blue one back up on the bottom side to indicate a gain in momentum. When you have an upper blue one just steady running and the lower blue one joins the party, that's a momentum increase. So when it did turn back up, that 50-cent bounce, once it got there, it did pick back up the blue one. It picked back up the force. Now you can step in the trade, and off you ran there. And that was from that trigger spot, it's $1.50 all the way to right here. And you picked the edge back up. I'm surprised it didn't keep going. By picking that edge back up, it gave you some thinking that it might continue, although it did get this 75-cent pullback, which I would have probably got out and not stayed in. And I generally don't re-enter. I go find me a fresh setup that I'm not chasing. This is an example of something you may run into. You got no plot here on the edge, and you can hit F5 to recalculate the indicators. Sometimes that'll bring it back. Sometimes you find one of your charts without this box on it, F5 will recalculate all the scripts and you'll pick that stuff back up. But it's not working here. That Ninja actually has an issue with what drives this indicator. And first they told me it was my historical data. Well, I replaced all of it and it didn't fix anything. And during the same time I was running those tests, they were further testing, and they had found an issue with it and said they would have it fixed in the next release, although they had a release the next day and it was not fixed in that release. But I don't think they had time to even work on it. that release was probably already ready. So hopefully the time the next release comes out, that will be where it won't come and go. And it won't be not on, see on this particular chart on the 25 factor it wasn't there, but on the 50 it was. So it's not anything to do with the particular stock you might be on, or it doesn't matter about the factor that you're on. It is random. This stock had a nice big solid run here back on the 26th breakout, but coming back down, it had sold off some. We'd done our trend shift, done everything supposed to do, 2 blue ones to the downside, and it continued down. You can see this is 2 days now, so this stock didn't move for one of those days, hardly any. Chopped around here sideways in $1 range for the next day, and then sold on off again. But on the reversal, now this didn't come on the first, and this is very, very early. So this is 9:34 a.m. All of a sudden you got this boost up, but it wasn't right off the bottom now. It was all the way up after it already bounced $1. That's not the same as bouncing right here immediately. So I'm not going to jump in this trade just because I see this factor on the edge going up. It got some strength. It didn't even have your force in here. So it was just a quick spike, more than likely very early in trading. Let your stocks settle in. You do not have to trade super early. Let them settle in, and then you can make some money without so much risk. There's nothing worse than trying to play catch up all day. If you wait and you're not behind, then you don't have to play catch up. But that did show some strength here. It pulled back and then headed back up. That was a $1 drop, another $1 bounce. Over here, all this is going on very early. This is at 9:31. It's done all this movement, but it gives a pullback here at 9:43. That's probably lining up right in here with this pullback. That's a $1 drop right there. This is a 25 factor chart, so that's 50, 75, $1 pullback. So that's lining up with this pullback right here. This bounces and heads back up, and it's got 2 blue ones on it when it heads back up, 217.31. It doesn't have the force yet, so I'm going to hesitate as I wait on this to come up. Finally, when this gets right here, crossing that line, we have turned this back up, so we're progressing back up on our edge, but we've got our force came back in. Now that our force is back in on our 50, I trust my 25. I've got the force on it, and this is about where I'm going to end up coming in this trade, in this 217.50 to 218 area as we take out that earlier high. So pretty much your high day break, you've already broke a 2-day trend here. Got your high day break, your forces come back in, you're gaining momentum, and your next level back, 25 here, 50 here, bigger level, is trying to come across the line, and it's gaining momentum as well, and it has the force. The force back here on the 50 is what makes me want to get in the stock on the 25. CLX is generally not that great a day trader, but it is in play on this particular day. It's strong. The market's strong. All this action right here took place. Remember, this is a 50 algo chart, so these are every dot's 50 cents. So this is by 9:35. You've already ran up, probably gapped up to about right here. It runs another $1, gives a little dollar pullback, goes again all by 9:42. As this progressed its way back to our line, you can see it came right to our line and held. And it's getting weaker, but that's where it's supposed to hold at. This is a big factor chart, and from the breakout, this is really the first pullback. Look at your time right here. It's right before 11 a.m. Right over here on our chart to the left. Excuse me, I could have blown that up a little earlier. On our chart to the left, right here is 10:44. So you went red during this pullback right here. It comes back, gives you green. It doesn't give you your double blue crossover, but it does come back to the green line. As it starts back up, it gets the blue one at the bottom to pick up some momentum, It gets the force back involved in it, and you can see how choppy this stock trades. I don't day trade this stock, but if you're trying to take a position and you're willing to tolerate the movements, you got a pretty nice run out of this by waiting on this right here. And you could have stepped in here with a next level down right off your chart, which would have been 51 cents. This is a setup I like to scan for at night. I'm looking for stocks that are out above the downtrending line. I call it my advanced setup. I'm looking for the pullback or the breakout. I want to look at this stock and see what I can figure out by this chart, because I'm expecting it to do exactly what it did, pull back to that line and then turn and go up. If I find the stock actually in enough of a downtrend to qualify for a trend shift, it's not just sideways. This is a 50 algo chart. You can see where this stock had broke down here, did that revisit on the 30th. It broke down on the 27th, did the revisit on the morning of the 30th, and this gave a really nice $5 drop that next day. I love this. Is probably one of your safest trades. You got the breakdown, the retracement, and then the run. The very first retracement. This setup right here is pre-planned. You're watching this stock for it to break up. You get the pullback early the next morning. It goes right basically to the line and starts to turn back up. It don't have any strength, so you need to wait on the trigger. When it does trigger, it gives you your two blue ones. You turn red to green, but you still don't have strength here. This gained slightly, and it right here is where it got strong at, and then moved another 75 cents or $1 here. This is your 25 over here to compensate for what you're not seeing here. You're getting your breakout. Go over here to your 25. Look at your strength come in right here. On this little pullback early in the morning, the strength stepped into the stock at 9:31 a.m. So by the time this triggered at 9:41, 10 minutes later, this was maintaining this strength. And so you were way up here when it triggered on there, and it gave a really nice run on strength with the blue ones, with the force. But this edge, that is your edge. That's why I named it the edge. This is really more a sample of choosing the proper factor chart for the stock you're trading. When you look at this stock and you see all this movement, but you see these dashed lines that are the day breaks. If you see this many day breaks in your chart, this is a swing trading factor for this stock. Now, this is $100-something stock, but the 25 factor is your swing trading factor because it don't have a lot of range. Even though this particular day it did, and this particular day it had a fair amount, it's still covering multi-days on these moves. And so this would be more of a swing trading, and that's your key. If you run on a stock and it's just got line after line after line after line, it's a very low ATR stock. You got to choose the right lines to get in on, the right factor to make your trade decision on. And I usually go down a level for my stop. So if I come in on a 50 factor chart, I'm using the 25 for my stop. If I come in on a 25 factor, I'm using a dime for my stop. And if I get such a huge run up and it's 80 cents down to my dime, I'm going to go smaller down to a nickel, and I'm looking for where the green line is because I want to have a tighter stop. I'm not willing to give back 80 cents at a point that I've run so far. Now, when I first break out, if I pull back 60 cents, I'll stay right in it as long as it don't take out my green lines and turn them back red. I'm going to stay in the trade, take that bounce. This is $1 reversal right here. And if I'm not breaking multiple days and I'm on a different stock that's moving all this in one day, I will let it pull back that $1 as long as it's maintaining what I want it to maintain on my both blue ones staying present and above my green line. and not going red down here, things of that nature, I'm going to stay in that stock because I'm looking for that reversal to go back, give me back my 80 cents plus $1.80 more. This stock though is in your this is a swing trading type of chart. It's selling off here. It gives the first real test back to the line. It fails again. It's not that strong when it comes up, barely crosses the zero line, and then reverse back down. It did get the force there, so it had a chance to break on up, but it did not. It failed. And you want to get on a shorter time frame because, like I say, this is a swing trading type ATR or factor for this ATR of this stock. So you want to be watching your dime and taking your shorts and your longs off the dime chart, not off this chart. Too many lines to be day trading on it. And one more thing before I move on. These lines cannot be built into the templates to be this dark. So right click, go to data, and go down to trading hours, and it has a 1 pixel line, and change it to 3 so you can tell the difference in the daybreak lines and just the normal horizontal and vertical lines that are a little more faint in the background. That's under the data series. I'll show this chart here for one reason. You've had a downtrend. You're watching for the break back up. All this price action volatility is going on in the first 3 minutes of the day. By 9:33, you're over here. It's gone up and down, ripping back and forth. $1.50, $2 moves. You can't trade it. You don't know what to do with it, but you're interested in going long. You feel like it's trying to make this trend shift reversal, but now it's gone into a chop zone, red, green, red, green. There's nothing you can do about that. You can't get a read. The only read you can get is right here. When this indicator maxes itself out, and this was very early because like I said, all this happened in the first 1 minute, zing, zing, zing. By 9:33, you're breaking up to here, and you do have the force coming in on the edge, the edge coming in very strong right here. It's a risky because it can go away as fast as it comes in. You've seen it on other charts go up, stay one bar, and head right back down. But when you can't figure out anything, no matter if it's 9:30 or 9:45 or 10:15, this is a good, helpful tool. You can see back here it came in right off the bottom. This is what we were talking about earlier. Now, this was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This stock made this turn from max to the bottom on the edge to max to the top, and it did it all before it printed the first dot. That's a strong move off the bottom. We're trying to go from down here and turn it blue. This one turned it green in less than 1 increment on our algo chart. That is super strong buying off the bottom. It might have been a double bottom off your support resistance chart. Something flipped this at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you can see it literally moved this far almost instantly. I mean, you'd have had to been staring at it to trade it. You couldn't have alerted it because it was all the way up here in less than 2 minutes. Little example of using two charts together. Most of this was, here's our day right here. We had a gap down. It moved up. Can't tell really how quickly. You can see what choppiness it took place over here. So you're not involved in the stock. You don't know what to do with it. But here's where if you're wanting to trade it, where you got your little difference, you've had your force going in and out all along the way. You finally do make a high day, and you finally, for the first time all day long, you got your edge right here at about 11:20. That's the strongest spot you've had all day long. That was right here on this bigger chart, on the 50 chart. It's trying to get above the red line. It's still a long way to triggering along. That's another 50 cents away. But you're watching it, you're seeing this momentum, gives this little pullback, comes right back in with your force right here. This is where you could step into this stock. A little after 12 o'clock, that was a long in here, and look what happened between This time I drew this dot, and this next dot was way up here in the middle. So in the first, this is a 50 cent, 50 algo, 50 factor chart. Before it moved 50 more cents right here, you got the edge to come in right in this area right here. So right about here is where this really got super strong, even on your 50, to go on and step into the stock. Plus you broke above our overlay here, and you end up with that's a $2 move late in the day. It's one of them old don't trade at lunchtime deals. What time is it? 12 o'clock. Don't worry about what time it is. Trade your chart. Trying to cram in a lot of teaching in this video, especially for day trading. I'm trying to pick up the pace a little bit. This is just a breakout. Stock is chopped sideways all day long. A lot of erratic movement is really not telling you anything. And then you get the force come in right here, which is tried a couple of times, but you're kind of near where it's wanting to flip over. It's indicating it might can go green. And right here your edge all of a sudden steps in, maxed out right before it turns green. It's on the chart where it's going to trigger at, and it's also triggering completely out above where our blue ones are turning blue. When it triggers, it's actually crossing above, which is a huge momentum right here. And when it broke, it took off $1.25. This is just 25 factor chart. Nice quick $1.25 move, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I picked this up just by having my columns looking for this edge, because you can be looking at 400 stocks and not see but 6 of them with the edge strong on the 25 in the columns, just using the column sort alone, not even looking at scanners. And that's an exact reason, instead of paying $72 for a kinetic 100 symbol data package, you can be on IQ for about $92 to $94, have 500 symbols, and that's $20 more a month. All it takes is one little trade to pay for that extra $20 a month for 6 months. Don't forget, we can give you a link if you want to switch over from kinetic to IQ and step up to a bigger package. I've got a link I can supply you with. Our subscribers, they have a 7-day free trial on IQ. I can get you a 14-day free trial, and they'll step that up right up for you. I'll just give you a special link. You use the link, they'll take you over and they'll give you a 14-day free trial. And then, so you're just getting 2 weeks for free, and go on also where kinetic doesn't do proration. Let's say you sign up, you sign up with kinetic on the 28th of the month, you're getting rebilled on the 1st. IQ prorates, so they'll give you the 14-day data free, and then if it's the 20th of the month, they just bill you for 10 days, and then they get you on a monthly billing cycle as well. But you would want to time that when your kinetic is running out, right before the end of the month. Cancel one, but you have to cancel it before it renews on you. Okay, Facebook. It finally made a really nice run for 2 or 3 days, and it had done the first run from the 31st, a pretty nice day up, did this little pullback, and right here your edge came in about 10:45 in the morning, even though I hadn't turned this back to green yet. And right over here is about this pullback right here at 10:45 in the morning. You don't even see that on this chart. It's such a minimal pullback. Didn't even show up on this chart. You got your pullback to your green line, and you've got your edge already over here on this 50. You can step back into this trade, use this as your stop area, and then you see what a breakout you got. Even if you chase this where the edge came in right here, you're about to cross over or very close to this line up here, getting out above our blue ones, and you got a nice acceleration in Facebook. This is almost a $5 move from right here to here. And Facebook generally is a terrible day trader, but it's in play right now. Quick chart on this stock, just working the system like it's supposed to work it. It's breaking up, it pulls back, gives a turn, had your force came right back in it. You didn't lose much ground on your edge, past the zero line, came right back in for a really nice surge up. When it did roll over, the edge came off real fast here at the top, and we've seen some that pulled back and the edge maintained itself, so it came off really fast. That's important. You lost your force really fast. You'd already lost your lower blue one, which doesn't mean you're going to quit going up, of course. It's just the longer this will stay with you, the more instantaneous, and that's why we got the overlay. If you can see the lower blue falling, that's increasing the momentum of this upside. As this pushes up right here, you see the strength increase on this downside with the force down at the bottom. But this is the little dances you can expect when you get below these green lines. They're going to try to go back and retest back up here before it turns red. But see, as it danced along and tried to go back up, it didn't gain any ground right here. And then the force came right back in it. It turned green to red. It got the two blue ones and the force at the same time. And you had a nice push down here. Quick look at Lumina as it did this morning. Kind of sideways, range bound. And this is a pretty good bit of movement here. This is a 50 factor chart. So this is $2, $3 and a half from here at 938 to here at 940. So you can't trade this. You watch your setup as it's progressing back above your line. Am I gaining any strength anywhere? Well, you got your force to come in right here. And when the force came in, it still chopped a little bit. That's a dollar pullback right here. And then when it broke back out, it regained the lower blue one, so that's a momentum increase after it had lost it a little bit right here. Regained the lower blue one here. Regained the force went green right here as well. It got into the momentum by coming out above our line up here as well, and then look here, you came right in with your force right before 12 o'clock, and this with your edge, right before 12 o'clock, and this thing just exploded to the upside for this huge, this is a $10 move. Quick look at Lulu's, a double chart, 50 factor on the right, 25 on the left. You've had this sell-off, you've had this sideways choppiness toward the end of the day on the first. The morning of the second, it's gotten out above this line, but it just can't break out on the first. And so finally on the second, you come up here early and give us 10:22 a.m. when it finally goes green right here at 10:22 at $121. Right back here about the same time you're gaining momentum. You got the trigger a little bit before on the 25er, but you're not really convinced because of the choppiness back behind you. And finally right here your edge comes in, and that's what you're looking for. You've got your force right here. You're right in this area. You do have your force back with you. You're looking for an edge, and here's your edge. Your edge steps in, you get this huge breakout up to the top. You also at the same time you got your edge right after that, you got your lower blue one to rejoin the party right here, and you just accelerated. But that, if you're sitting and you're just watching, you need some little something to put you over the top. There's your factor. There's your indicator for that. Here's Nvidia. The market was kind of down. The market gave a good quick bounce. Nvidia came in with a force first of all right in here. You're watching it come up. It's showing you the force, and right here all of a sudden you got your edge before it turned red to green. Continues up instantly, gives you your trigger price is right over here in the box saying 1x and 2x, and your price exactly where that's going to take place at red to green. You know you got your yellow center line here, so what are you going to get if you get a red to green break? You're going to get two blue ones at the same time. You've already got your edge in your favor, maxing out. You get your break, it gives you this 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a $2 move. This is a 50 factor chart. It gives you a $2 move, $1.75 pullback, and right back up again and kept going. Big run for NVIDIA. Another look at a volatile stock, giving the crossover. You got your two blue ones, you got your force there before you broke it. You also got your edge right when it broke. If you can get the edge, there's a lot of interest. It may not stay green, but that's your first sign that there's some really strong interest in this stock. Stock continues up from 112 all the way to 116. This is all on 1 day's chart. This is just to show you momentum. You got a slow drift down on Smuckers as it turned. It had your opportunity with a yellow line to give you the two blue ones, which it did. It broke out. There's your trigger price at 11 o'clock in the morning. It did not have the edge. Of course, it did have the force and the two blue ones, but very quickly it found itself crossing our overlay, and when it got up here, it had momentum, and then you can see the lower overlay kept falling, and you picked up your edge right here and got a nice continuation up here of another couple of dollar move. I hadn't mentioned this, but always be sure you got volume in your stocks when you got these early moves. A lot of times you'll look at a stock and you'll say, oh, this thing always has volume. It trades 700-800 million shares a day. But many times early you may look at a stock with 12, 14, 25, 30,000 shares being traded early. That means you're going to have more volatility in your spread if they jerk the bid out from under you. So be aware of those. Don't feel like you missed it because you made a good decision not to trade it on low volume and it went anyway. That's okay. You don't have to trade them all. You just got to make 4 or 5 good selections each day, or swing trading even 1 or 2 a day that can give you those nice 4 and 5% returns in a couple of days. This is a breakout early in the morning. Super edge came in here very early and gave you a nice break, and when it ran up, this is what I want to show you. Maybe you can't get this trade. You're not on it. You don't see it. But you've got a very strong run here with the edge maxed out, along with, of course, your other indicators were there as well. And this pullback down to your green line, it did penetrate it, but look at your 50 over here at the same time. It's pulling back. So as it pulls back, you go to a shorter time frame chart, step it back to a 10, and try to find turning the 10 back red to green on this big pullback, and get your 10 to come in and give you some momentum as far as getting back in this trade. It's already been super strong. You expect it to remain strong, and you can pick back up in this trade somewhere in this area by using that 10 as your guide. You're basing your decision to want to trade this based on the strength that you saw right in here. It's been a long video. I tried to put a lot of training in here. This is a stock that you were watching after this sell-off. You're hoping it's going to break up, and a couple of things you saw on the first is you saw this nice run up. It's a choppy kind of stock. It's not my favorite kind of day trader, but it does make a pretty nice run during the day. It's got some volatility to it. Remember, these are 50-cent pullbacks, just one dot, and they continues on up. But it's trying to go up, and then it kind of bases out during the morning. So this chart now is of very little help to you as it's basing along. But as you look over to your right-hand chart, what has happened on the first during that day that it did run up well is it had the edge strong at the bottom down below here. So it's gone out above our red line. It hasn't turned green, may not even be predicting to turn green yet, which means on a 50 factor chart it's at least a minimum of $1.50 away if it's not giving you a box over here at that time. but it does exactly what it's supposed to do. This is your advanced trade. These are days, remember, dots and dots and dots. You run your end-of-day advanced trade setup. You're looking for the stock that's closing price is out above this red line so that you can plan this trade. You're looking for this stock to maybe turn green early, then pull back and give you an entry here, or do exactly what this did, pull right back early the next morning right to our line and turn immediately and head straight back up. And when it did that, you go back over here, you find you some momentum somewhere, maybe even step back to the dimer to help you through this area, but you can come in right here. Remember, what does it take to make another dot lower? It takes 50 cents. It's plotted right on your chart right here. That's the value minus 1 cent that's posted right here for you to set that stop by. If you believe that you're fixing to get this move, you can step in with a 51-cent stop off of the current value, which is right here on the chart. No thinking. It's built in here for you. Step in, 51-cent stop posted for you to the penny on the chart. You step in and you get this move. How much is this move? That's $1, 52, 53, 50. It's a $4 move, still gaining momentum at the end of the day, and you come right back in. Remember, you had the edge maxed out the day before. There's interest, and the interest returned. That's one of the key factors is being highly interested in this stock. Is you found it in this mode, you looked at your chart and you saw how strong it was today to be interested in putting this on your watch list for tomorrow. Thanks for watching our videos. Find out more about our active trading setups package. Don't expect to walk in and just master this. This is a trading system. Trading takes time to learn, and you learn from looking at chart after chart after chart. You can become a trader and quit trying to scalp if scalping's not working for you, because 92% of scalping fails. Thanks for watching our video. So head over to activetradersetups.com. You can find out more about our trading package that always has this box on the chart. This comes and goes as we shift from red to green and green to red. We have pre-built charts, pre-built scanners. We have the training like the video you're watching now. And we teach you how to trade. Subscribe to our channel while you're here and watch for more videos with the big yellow logo. Stock Chart Talk. When you see this logo, I'm in here evaluating and looking and talking about charts and how to learn how to read them and use them.